are week 3 of our series called Adulting. Guys, is it adulting or adulting? Adulting. Adulting. That's what I said, adulting, but everyone corrected me, so whatever. Anyways, we are in this series and we are talking about what it means to be an adult and how we do that. And today we've got a really special guest. So a couple of you, our schedule has changed slightly. So we were supposed to do Working Genius with Pastor Jonathan today. Unfortunately, Pastor Jonathan's schedule needed to be switched around, so we're going to be doing that next week. If you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, allow me to explain. Working Genius is a course that we do, all of us do here at One Church TO as a staff team, but it's actually something that Pastor Jonathan is trained in and has done outside of church organizations. The goal of this test is to really help people understand their giftings in the workplace. But not only the workplace, in schools and things like that. There are 6 different Working Geniuses. We're going to play a video at the end just so you can kind of have a better idea. The test is $25. It's $25 to do the personality test. None of that, all of that goes towards the actual test. We don't take any of that money. Pastor Jonathan is going to come in and do a free training with us, almost like a workshop with us, to go through all of that. How many of you have already signed up? Amazing. How many have already done it? Done the link, done it. Okay. If you have not, it is in your email. If you've already paid for it, it's in your email. Make sure you do the personality test because Pastor Jonathan's going to put us all on a grid and we're going to be working together, understanding our flow. We're going to be doing that next week. So if you're interested, it's $25, and next week we're going to be going through this test that really shows us where our giftings are in the workplace and some working frustrations, some things that if we're doing this too much in our working environment, if we're doing this too much in our job, this is going to really drain us. It's going to be something that is going to be exhausting for us. I don't know how many of you have been in part-time jobs or maybe even school where you're like, this doesn't seem that hard, but it's exhausting for me. And I've been in places like that where I watch someone and they can do something in 20 minutes and it takes me an hour and a half. It just takes different energy for me. And so it's really helpful for us to understand ourselves, understand what we can bring to the table, and some of the areas that we can confidently say, hey, listen, I can do this. Of course I can do it. It's just going to drain me. So this is the QR code. You can sign up for that. I do not want money to be an issue. So if you're a student, if you're just coming out of school, if you're like, hey, listen, I don't have $25 for a personality test or for a work test, let me know. Let me know. We want to make sure that you can participate next week with us because I truly do believe in this test. I've seen the benefit of it in my team that I work with here at the church, and so I think that it would be really, really great for all of us to do. So we'll watch a video that goes into a little bit more detail later on, but yeah. Next thing, sorry Stuart, I didn't tell you I was going to do announcements first.
That's okay.
Great,
no worries.
okay.
No worries.
Next thing we have, this Saturday is Cross the Line. It's not too late to sign up. This is a really fun run. We are actually making it a fun, hey, come on, show them. That's right, Cross the Line. We are making it a fun run. So if you want to dress up, the person who dresses up and has the best costume is going to win $50 gift card. So dress up. Come in a banana costume. Come in a T-Rex costume. If you need a costume and you actually do want to dress up, let me know. I got you. I work in Kids Min. I got you. All right? So dress up, come, and it's a 5K run. If you're not a runner, you're like, I don't even run to the bus. I will let that bus go. That's okay. Come and hang out because I'm not running, but it's going to be a really fun time. It's fun to just community build there too. So, yeah? Okay, I think those are it. That is it. So, if you guys can give a warm welcome to Stuart McDonald. Yeah. We're really excited to have him. Stuart has over 20 years. 20 years?
A lot longer than that.
Oh, okay. See, that's what LinkedIn says.
Yeah,
So now I need you to let me know. Of headhunting. Stuart, I have to tell you, when I first told the young adults that you were a headhunter,
Right.
someone thought you were like a secret agent who like killed people. And I was like, no, not that kind of headhunter. But Stuart's specialty is actually finding people's giftings and jobs and having those two things connect. And there was something that was said on your LinkedIn, and you said when talent meets job, the possibilities are endless. And that was something that was really, really cool. Something that some of us don't always focus on. We don't always focus on our giftings and allowing that to drive us into a job or a career. But that's what your specialty is. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about career, job. What's the difference between a job and a career? How do we do this as Christians? How do we do this as young people? How do we have resilience to go into this? And so we're really, really excited to have you.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's good.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so the first question,
Yeah.
Stuart, that I have for you. In 5 minutes, I want you to tell us what we need to know about Stuart. So tell us about the beginning of your life into this career now.
I'm pretty old. I'm pretty old. That'll take a long time. I've been in this business. I started when I was 21, and I'm now 69. So it's been a long time. And
Sorry,
it's a
you gotta
tremendous
hold
amount
this
of
a little
changes.
closer.
Is it have to hold it a little
There
closer?
you go, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm not a karaoke singer. My wife is. So maybe that's why I'm not very good with the mic. But first of all, it's so great to see you out here. And the most important thing is to remember that everyone has a place, and everyone can make an opportunity, and anyone can become anything they want to be if you want it bad enough and you're willing to do the work to become it. That's what's really important. And the other thing, try not to compare yourself to anybody else. You are unique and wonderful in your own way. Comparing is a game of losing. It creates envy and jealousy. It's not a good place to be. So that's important. And what I've been doing it for a long time. And it's not a magical thing, but the difference is I don't find people jobs. Companies hire me to find key people for the companies. So I'm paid up front to do it, and I do various different types of searches. I work in finance, I work in engineering, I work in operations, I work in sales, I work in marketing. And most of the business I do is with organizations that are not necessarily, there's a lot of brand name companies like Pepsi, Abbott Laboratories, Procter & Gamble, these kind of guys. I do work with them. But I do deal a lot with small, mid-sized businesses that are entrepreneurs and far different types of requirements and so on. So I work with a lot of different types of organizations. So what's important for yourself is, where do you fit? Are you the type of person like let's say there's 20 seconds left on the clock, you got the ball, are you the person that passes or takes the shot? Because different environments and different cultures need people with different sets of personalities to be successful. A highly fast entrepreneurial company, if you're not an ownership type of person, you're going to have a hard time surviving in that company, because their demands are a lot different, their structure's a lot different, their support's a lot different. Or in a bigger company, you're part of the process, you're part of the team, or you're not running a team. So there's a lot of things to learn when you do that, right? And I got in this business because I became completely unemployable.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm a self-admitted alcoholic. I've been sober for 36 years.
Yeah.
And I came into Alcoholics when I was 33, so most of you people at the age you are now, I'd be incapable to be here when I was your age. There's just no way. Like, I was completely lost, a lost person. But by the grace of God, I got sober at 33 and was able to build a pretty successful business and so on. But my life changed. But where my life got confusing was in high school. In grade 9, I started to drink and do drugs, and because I wanted to fit in and be with certain people. I was stuck to the crowd where I always felt uncomfortable. I never felt I belonged anywhere. So to escape reality, and plus I didn't have the ability whatsoever to be honest with myself. I'm not talking about lying or stealing or cheating. Honest with my emotions, because I was never brought up in an environment, because my mother was an alcoholic and my father was a self-enabled person. And he was so busy trying to support 4 kids and look after his wife that he had no time for us. So I never got what we'd call emotional intelligence when I was a kid. There was no talking about emotions, talking about feelings, or any of these things that we talk about today. So, and that doesn't make you necessarily an alcoholic. What it was for me is that it's very simple. If you're allergic to strawberries, you break out in a rash. If you're a drug addict or an alcoholic, you break out high or you break out drunk. That's your allergic reaction. It's not that you're weak. It's not that you're a bad person. You have a disease.
I've never actually heard that way of talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's
no,
what
that,
it is.
that was
Yeah.
that's really interesting that you'd say that, because that is what it is.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And we live in a world that, today now, marijuana is acceptable. I don't care if a person smokes dope. That's up to them. But, I don't want to be in my backyard with my grandkids and some of my neighbors a pothead. I don't want that because you can smell it. But, and the same thing with drinking, And hey, I was 21 years old. I already had 3 impaired driving charges. It's nothing I'm proud of, but that's what happened. I became, in actual fact, by the time I was 33, I became an unemployable commission salesman. Now that's a worthy goal in life, eh? But that's what happened to me. And it's like anything in life. You have to get to a point where you surrender and you start to win. You have to let go of all your old thinking and to accept the right thinking brought you to a lot of places. So how do you change your thinking? Well, first I was married once, and my wife and I, after 17 years, we couldn't come compatible because my wife made a decision in her life that she wanted to go a different way in her own relationship. So we got a divorce. And then God, for about 5 years, I kind of checked out. I still worked, but I didn't do the work. I built a company of 25 people. I was very successful. I made tons of money. But the problem was this. At 20 years sober, I hit an emotional bottom because I was chasing all the wrong things. I thought, what society says, have a nice car, have a nice house, have money. And I was making bags of money. That wasn't the problem. I was driving A6. I lived in $1 million house. I had 2 kids. I was traveling all over the world. I had everything in the outside that looked successful. But on the inside, I had nothing. I was a great provider financially. But I wasn't there emotionally for my wife, my ex-wife, or for my children. That's what happened. And I hit that bottom at 20 years. And then I met a girl that God put in my life who happened to be, her family were Christians. And she had 3 conditions to go out with her. 1, I had to learn to fish.
Okay.
2nd, I had to learn to dance. And 3rd, I had to go to church. First 2 aren't too of a problem. The church was a bit of a problem. Although I was in it, Alcoholics Anonymous is actually a spiritual program. It's based on 12 steps and 12 traditions. It's all based on the gospel, really. It is. It's just worded in a different way. And higher power is what they use because the fact we're many different people of many different walks of life. And the one thing you want to do is check your religion at the door because you're not going to get well if you're going to fight that. You have to find and build your own personal relationship with the God of your understanding. That's what AA is about, right? And the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is one thing only, to find God. That's it. And that takes time, especially when you're a person that is grown up in an environment or has a perception of what God is, a punishing God. Not understanding that God is here to love you, to care for you, to be your friend, to be your partner, right? So that's what happened to me. And when I hit this bottom, I met this girl, as we were saying, and so we went to a bunch of churches and all that stuff. And what's interesting, my wife is Chinese. She's born in Malaysia. Now my family lives in Singapore. She's one of 9. There's 50 in our clan. It's amazing. And they're all Christians. And so we started going to certain churches, and we went to a couple. And then one day we came here, and Pastor Keith at the time was sharing about a certain situation he had with one of his sons. And he looked up, and he was saying, Jesus, please help me. I don't know why at that particular time, the light went on for me, it clicked. And from that day forward, I built, my whole life has been based on a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I got baptized. I started reading all kinds of books. I'm an avid reader of anything that makes me look at and learn how to practice the way of living, right? And the secret to life is this, is to recognize everyone in this room is love, eh? And we're all an extension of that love. And we're all at different stages of that in our life. And that's what's important. And you need to find your own way there. No one can tell you how to get there. You have to find your way. And that's what the journey of life is, right? So I'll give you a good example. I was with my son who's 27, and we're having coffee on Sunday. He's going out with this girl for 3 years, and he's trying to make the stage of what's next and all that kind of stuff. But part of the problem is my son's a Christian. She's an Orthodox Greek Christian. and she wants him to convert. Big bit of a problem. He's been going to the church, doing the mission work, doing other things, but he doesn't really feel he wants to convert. So I said to him, well, first of all, it's very hard to be in any long-term relationship if you don't have the same belief system. It's very difficult. So when my wife and I have disagreements, we always go, what do you think Jesus would do here? It's kind of hard when you're not having that kind of relationship or different types of principles, right? So anyways, he talked to me about this stuff and all that. And at the end of the day, the next day I'd send him a text. And I said, how blessed I am. The gift I got from Alcoholics Anonymous was none of my kids have seen me drink. None of them. But Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the ability to have what we call emotional sobriety. It taught me about things of called joy, forgiveness, honesty, open-mindedness, understanding, hope, all these gifts. So I sent this text to my son, and I said, how blessed I am at 27 years old that you're emotionally strong enough in your own self and love yourself enough to be honest with how you feel. And the gift was that he felt safe enough to tell me that. That's what life's about, eh? That's what we're here for, right? And the first step of anything and work or anything you do is, are you honest? Do you have that ability to see yourself who you really are? Because we all have, the problem that we have is living in reality. Because sometimes the reality is just way too painful. So we either run away from it, or we learn to deal with it, or we hide it. My experience has been the longer you run away from it, the harder it gets. And there's no real bad things in life. There's just experiences. There's no right and there's no wrong. It's about experiencing life. Because when I grew up, the saying was, oh, go out and be a good boy. Right? I'm still trying to figure out what that means. And I don't like the word good. I like to say, how are you? I like to say I'm well. Because good is not really an emotion. Well is. So there's all these things that I've learned in my journey. And how I do that in my business, the biggest thing I see with younger people today is the lack of self-awareness. They're all searching for things that they can't find. And it's similar to, I met an Irish girl, I think I was 33 at the time, and she said something to me that I never forgot. She said, people spend a lifetime looking for something they'll never find. It took me a long time to realize that. One, the answer to that was yourself, eh? And that's a very hard thing to find, because most of us don't look for ourselves.
It's interesting because I feel like people in a Christian setting would say, oh, well, that's just Jesus. You just need to find Jesus.
Right.
But actually you're saying it's yourself. And it's hard, I think, for young people to find themselves, to feel confident in this world with who they are and being their authentic self.
Right.
And so this is going to be a little controversial. This
That's
isn't
okay.
on our notes.
That's all right.
Do you think that maybe in a Christian setting, when we say, oh, the thing that you're searching for is Jesus, it's just Jesus, do you think that that's maybe, it could be an easier way of not dealing with self?
No, not necessarily. I think there's a lot of confusion, right? And when I talk about Jesus or God, they're one and the same to me, but what it really means is that we all come here with the same things. Our job is to wake them up. We all come with that. And the reality is our goal is to align our will with God's will. And free will, to have free will, takes responsibility. So, what I look at Jesus as the example that I want to live like. I don't expect myself to do miracles. Like I can't go flip my finger and someone's going to, I don't believe in that. But what I believe that I can be an example of how to live a good life and to follow the way that Jesus lived. That's what I'm trying to do. And it's not easy, right? Because I suffer from all these character defects. Anger, resentment, fear, gluttony, sloth. I have them all. So I've been using this prayer for me, that's worked for me for many, many years. And I do it, I would say, pretty well every morning, or when I'm in trouble, when I don't feel I'm connected. Because if I'm not connected to God and connected to myself, I will never be connected to anybody else. And here's the other thing I learned. There's a spiritual axiom in life. If you're not feeling connected or you're not doing well, don't look outside. You got to look within. You got to be able to take a quick check inventory. What's going on here? And most people never spend enough time to learn what's behind the fear I have. In my case, a lot of times fear was envy and jealousy, because I wanted what this guy had, but I wasn't willing to do the work to get it. Or I wasn't happy for them because they did so well and I wasn't. I wasn't grateful for what I got. You know, the gentleman that's been my sponsor, he's 86 years old, he's 55 years sober. Unbelievable man. He's like a 2-year-old. I mean, he just lives life like you wouldn't believe. He rides his bike everywhere, he travels, he does all kinds, it's amazing, right? And I look at that, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Is to live life, to learn about life? And today, the big switch in the work environment, it's not about career, it's about life. When I grew up, the idea was you get a job, and it was similar to what was in the teaching last week. It was get a job, get married, have kids, buy a house, and then retire. That was the idea of life at that time. Well, that's not what life is not anymore. My daughters and my son are living life. They're making choices that I look, what the heck are they doing? But you know what I've learned as a parent, it's their life. I had to learn to let go and just be there for them and allow them to make their mistakes, because that's how we learn. And in life, there is no bad mistakes, actually. That's been my experience.
So, question, how do we do that as young people in Toronto with the pressures of finances, money, paying for just living, and also family pressure? Like understanding that, so I said to you earlier, I said probably about 85% of the young adults that come here would be first gen, which means their parents are the first generation here to Canada.
Right.
So there's an expectation on a lot of our young people here to not do life, not live life the way that you're saying, but actually to focus on money, success, career.
Right.
So how do we navigate that as young people?
Well, money is never the answer to anything. And if you just got money problems, you're in pretty good shape. What if you had no good health? Like, you got to look at and put it in its proper. I'm not saying that money's not a bad thing. That's what got me in a lot of trouble. I was chasing money. I thought, hey, driving a nice big A6, living in $1 million house, you know, look at me. Wow, I arrived. But were you happy in the inside? And what life is about, matter of fact, life is not about being happy. Happy is a short-term thing. You can go out and buy a new suit, new shirt, go to a ball game or watch a show or go to a concert and you're happy. It's joy you want to find, because joy is a virtue. And joy gives you meaning and purpose. That's more important than anything else. If you don't have that in life, money isn't going to replace that. And there's many examples out there. We all know very famous people that were, in our eyes, society says, well, look how great they are. But they all died alone, miserable, unhappy. But you have to learn that. You know, there's nothing wrong with money if it's in the proper place. The problem with money for me at the time was I thought money would solve all my problems. It's not true. You know, the other part that I had I was codependent. I was living my life through my ex-wife. I thought if I made her happy, I'd be happy. That's another lie we say to ourselves. Your responsibility is to take care of yourself. That's your goal. Because if you're happy and you take care of you, you're going to be okay. You can't get anyone else happy. You know, that's a lot. For me, that was a lesson that I had to learn. That was a lot of work. And when you're codependent, what happens is that you create resentment eventually. And so does the other person. They get resentful because all you're doing is for them. You got to live your own life and hopefully be with a partner that has their life, and then you have a life together. That's what's important, right? And you have to learn that as you go through life. You know, it's very important not to give up the things that you enjoy doing. That's important too. But also life's about compromise. And it's also accepting sometimes that you're not going to get what you want. You're always going to get what you need. And since I've been sober, I've never gone hungry, never gone broke. I've come close, but it's never happened. Right? You know, and I always look at the aspect of this is that God's been good to me. You know, God is great, life is good. I've always looked at it from that perspective. You know, gratitude's a big part of it. And learning how to change within your own self. So I use the Serenity Prayer a lot. And when I mentioned earlier, the prayer I use, and I use this a lot, I just say simple this. I say, God, help me to love myself as much as you love me so we're one. Help me to believe in myself as much as you believe in me so we're one.
That is a prayer.
That is a prayer.
Can you say that again?
God, help me to love myself as much as you love me so we are one. Help me to believe in myself as much as you believe in me, so we're one. Help me to have faith in myself as much as you have faith in me, so we're one. Help me to have hope in myself as much as you have hope in me, so we're one. This prayer I've been using for years, and it saves my bacon all the time. Because I know if I'm aligned with God and doing what God wants me to do, my life is okay. It always works out. Sometimes quickly, sometimes very slowly. But it does come together. The idea is to be out of the way, to recognize that you have control of nothing, right? That's what's important. And there's great prayer, and I find the Serenity Prayer is a very powerful prayer. And another prayer I use a lot is the prayer of St. Francis. You know, because I spent a lifetime trying to be understood instead of trying to understand. You know, I was a very selfish, self-centered person. And I can still be like that today. Like, we don't get, like, here's the other thing I had to learn. I had to love the good of myself and the things that aren't so good about me. Because that's how God made me. But he gave me the power of free choice. So I can live in the beatitudes, or I can live in the baguettes. I choose that each day. Sometimes I choose that each moment, right? That's the greatness that we have. That's the responsibility we have. So when it comes to work, the most important thing is to find something that, don't get cut, like my son's had a lot of challenges with this. I don't know, and I think it's more sometimes in younger men than younger women for some strange reason. But I think it's because he's trying to find this perfect thing or this thing on, like when I was a kid, I thought my job was to provide. You know, and we live in a world now that everyone provides because things are so expensive. Most people have both people working, right? And I think that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is that sometimes we never get settled in recognizing that, you know, this digital age that we live in, and I'll give you the best example is that I don't know how many people have played hockey or played football or whatever sport. You know, when you're a little kid, you dream of playing in the NFL, you play in the NHL. Well, the reality is this. It's 1% of 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 1% actually just touch the ice in the NHL. So you need a plan, right? And that doesn't mean that you can't eventually become that great musician you want to be or that great writer you want to be. But in the meantime, you got to pay things for the food. So the old expression, there's no such thing as a bad job when you don't have a job. And it's not there for life. It's like when you buy a house. Usually the first house that you buy is not the house that's your lifetime dream. You work towards it. You have to have a goal. And the hardest thing to do in life is to recognize that in this world, you're never going to control outcomes. This is a very tough lesson to learn. But what you can learn, the things that you need to do to get outcomes. It's what I do each day makes tomorrow a little better. So I've learned in the company that I started, I put in a system, a process, and I trained all the sales guys on the process. And I got to tell you, it worked 100%. When they worked on the outcomes of the sales, they never made any money. But when they did what they had to do each day, they made very good money. That's the same thing in what you need to decide. What are you going to do each day that's going to get you closer to your goal? So you need a plan. Then you need to recognize the action you need to take in that plan. And then you just do it a day at a time. And you become outstanding discipline in the action you need to take. And the outcomes will take care of themselves. But too many people focus on the outcome. They wonder why they don't achieve.
Yeah, that's why I'm still not open.
You got to persevere. You know the gift of I say this to my kids every day. I say, I want you to remember something. And they go, what's that, Dad? I'm leaving you nothing.
Oh.
And they go, what do you mean? I said, I hope that the example I can be for you is that you'll choose and get the gift of perseverance. Because perseverance gives you great gifts, the gifts of faith and belief. And I know if they have that, they're going to be okay. Because money comes and goes, stocks and bonds go up and down, life changes. But if you have faith and belief in you, you're on your way. And that comes from your higher power, Jesus Christ or God. And that's what you need to focus on. And the longer and the stronger I build that relationship and trust that, the better my life gets, right? And I can't do it every day. You know, it's a day at a time, right? That's the other thing, living one day at a time. That's what's important. Because right now, here's an interesting thing if you think about it. We all know when we arrive here, right? Because we're all alive sitting here right now. But none of us can tell us right now when we're going to leave here, right? No one in this room can predict when you're going to die. No one can. That's why you do the best you can each day, because it could be your last day. You know? Why do some people die at 66? Some people die at 36. When I went to high school, there was guys got 3 or 4 people died. They were only 16, 17 years old. Why? I don't understand that, right? We don't know what God's purpose is or understanding what God's situation is. A lot of things happen in this world that are out of its control. But what I can control and what I can manage is my attitude, my actions every day. So if I get up in the morning, I start my morning on my knees. I do my prayers. I have what I call a God journal. And I wouldn't share it to you because some of the things I write to God, I don't think you'd like to hear. But I look at it this. I don't think God really cares what I say, as long as I come to him with an open heart. I can surrender anytime, but I prefer to be on my knees because you're never taller than when you're on your knees talking to Jesus Christ. I've had to learn that, right? And that's what I strive for. And I strive to learn something every day. I try each day to help somebody with no expectation. And here's the secret to that. Don't tell anybody. Because once you tell somebody, it doesn't matter. You think that's an easy thing to do. It's not, right? Because if you got an ego like me, I want everyone to know how great I am, right? I do that. But that's something I try to do that's worked well for me. So and I owe that all to Alcoholics Anonymous and Jesus Christ. That's what's happened to me. And many, many, many people have helped me. Tremendous amount of people. And I'll just tell a little story how God works. A couple of things. I don't know if you know the difference between saying sorry and making an amend. Sorry's easy, eh? Making an amend is that I'm going to change. And it's sitting down in front of someone that you hurt, and you ask them, how did I hurt you? And listening. I'll tell you, I've done that a few times. It's not an easy thing to do. But if you're right with God, and you're right with yourself, it doesn't really matter how they react, because you're not responsible for that. You're just responsible to clean your side of the street. So I worked for a company many years ago called Montreal Trust, which is now part of Scotiabank. And I got fired there before. It was because I was an alcoholic, but I wanted their money more than they wanted to give it to me. So I stole, is basically what it came down to. I was about 5, 6 years sober. I was doing a search for a big pharmaceutical company in Montreal. And I couldn't go to this meeting. You know, it was driving me crazy. And I was praying for getting on the willingness of the difficulties in my life. And one of them is a step that we have that I had to make amends. So I decided, okay, I knew there was sold to Bank of Nova Scotia. At 9 o'clock in the morning, I went down to Place Ville-Marie in Montreal. Had no idea the person I had to meet, if they were still there, they worked there or not. No idea whatsoever. I pushed the elevator button at 9 o'clock. The gentleman that I had to meet to make the amend to pushed the button at the same time. I didn't see him in 10 years. I got in the elevator with him, and I told him I'm here to make an amend to him. I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous. He turned around and said to me, his name was Rob, he said, Stu, it's so good to see you. I'm a reborn Christian. Now, if that's not God working in my life, what is? I was able to take responsibility for my part, clean up the actions, take apology, own up to it, and then here's the greatest thing about it. I was able to forgive myself. See, here's the other thing you need to learn in life. If you're not willing to forgive others, you're going to have a hell of a time forgiving yourself. And self-forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. And it's worth it. Because resentment only does one thing to you. It kills you. It eats you. You know what a snake does when it gets cornered? It eats its head. That's what resentment does to you. It's not worth living. But you know what? I had a partner one time when I first started. He stole $150,000 from me. I just got married, just bought my first house, had my first kid on the way. I couldn't believe it. So I called my sponsor. He says, what do you got to do? He says, you got to pray for him. I said, you got to be kidding. I said, pray for him. You know, you wouldn't want to know what my prayer started off. It wasn't very nice, but I was on my knees, and I said, God, give this guy that. And here's what the interesting happened. I couldn't change him, but I changed. I was able to forgive him. But the other thing I was able to do was to see my part in it. What role I played to do that. I was in a love-hate relationship with that person. Some days I loved them, some days I hated them. It wasn't a good fit for me, but I didn't have the courage to change and leave. I seen that part in me. I was able to forgive myself and move on. I started a company, and it just went off like a rocket. So there's other ways that how God's worked in my life, right? And I have numerous experiences like that since I've been sober, right? So if that happens to me, I don't know why it can't happen to you. The only difference between me and you people in this room right now, I'm older, I've been going to church a little longer. That's it. You know, and sober, I was up this morning at 7 o'clock, 6:30. I had to meet somebody. And I'm only sober by God's grace today. That's it. That's it. And that's all you guys got. You got today. And what's important, what are you going to do that's good for you today? Do you know how to be good to yourself? How to treat yourself with love and respect? Because, see, you can't be in relationships with others, and you can't give that to others unless you can give it to yourself. It's very powerful.
When we were talking, I remember when we were talking about this talk and some of the things that I was on my heart about having this conversation with you and just my heart around this series was really helping young people get unstuck. I think a lot of us feel stuck. We feel stuck in the next step of building a career or building a job, like building a like having a job versus having a career.
Right.
And so this idea of stuck. So what would you say? Let me read this because I actually wrote it down. What do you do when you're stuck? And what are some things that us as young people moving into a place of trying to navigate careers and job paths, education, can start doing?
Well, I think when I get stuck, the first thing I do is I pray. Right? That's the first thing I do, right? And I'm a swimmer. I swim 3 times a week, 2,000 meters, and I've been doing that for a while. You know, I think exercise is a good part of that, gets you unstuck because you're into yourself. It's like boredom. Boredom is self-centered fear. You know, that's the truth, right? So you have to learn that. The most important thing about career, we're in a changing world right now. Everyone thinks, and part of it I think is, I believe a big part of it is we're in the digital age where people think, hey, if I create the next new software, I'm going to become a billionaire. You know, that's not reality. There's more people that failed in that business than are successful in that business, right? It's not easy finding a career, but you have to look where the market's going. The biggest opportunity for people today is in the trades. And everyone thinks, oh, gee, my father was a bricklayer from Glasgow, Scotland. He came here in the 50s and ended up in Sault Ste. Marie. And everyone said, well, it shouldn't be a problem, he spoke English. Half the people could never understand him because he had such a heavy accent. But, you know, my point is that you have to be aware where the world's changing, where the opportunities are. And I think part of that problem is when I went to high school, they changed to the credit system. They got away from the tech stream, they got away from the business stream, and I can't remember the other stream, the science stream. So everyone was just trying to get out of high school. Because I came in, when I was going through high school, the big thing, I went to one of the high schools that had the biggest problem for drugs. And I mean, a few people were quite successful, but the point I'm making is that if you want to find where you best fit, is you got to go try different things and don't think you have to do it for the rest of your life. You have to experience life. So for example, if you want to go into a trade, go and try all the different trades till you find one that works for you, right? That's what you need to do. If you want to go into business, I would try and work for an entrepreneurial company. A startup would be ideal if you can find that. Or the other way you can find great opportunities, volunteer at a charity where companies are. So one of the things I say to candidates that become unemployed, that have 5, 6 years experience, that's kind of the bottom end that we do, I say, okay, what companies are you interested in? And you know what's interesting? A lot of them don't know. They're just looking for a new job. And here's what you need to understand. The difference between a job and an opportunity, a job is what you have. An opportunity is what you're looking for. And that's very important to understand that. So if you're looking for a new opportunity, you have to go to the industries or to the sector where you want to work. So if you want to be like a tradesperson, look in the trades. If you want to be a computer person, hey, right now AI is hot, but you know where the money's going to be? Cyber technology.
Right.
Everything's in mobile. That's not going to change. So if I was doing technology, that's where I'd want to go, right? And consulting companies are great places to go, and there's all kinds of big consulting companies to go into. If I wanted to go into engineering, think about it. Every building you go to is automated. Either got to be mechanical or electrical. I mean, I deal with an integrator that right now, I don't know if you people are aware of that, they're upgrading every airport in the world right now because their lighting systems, their electrical systems are 50, 60 years old. They're not functioning. And the expansion that's happened with people travel, they need better runways, they need better lighting. So electrical engineers are in such high demand. And that's not going to change for a long time. And then we're in another great problem we have in the world right now. We're in a demographic war. Globally, the population is aging quicker than the younger people are coming up. So there's just not enough people. So there's lots of opportunities out there, but it's not going to be handed to you. You got to go find it.
Right.
So what's a nice way of doing that? If you sit down and say, for example, you look at big food companies. If you want to be in consumer packaged goods, you look at Procter & Gamble, you look at Pepsi and all these big companies. All those companies on their websites have charities. Every single one of them are involved in a local charity. Go out, join their run. Get to meet the people there. Because what you need to do is network. You got to go out and take it. It's not going to come to you. It's very important to learn that. And sure, it's difficult at times, but if there's two of you go together, so what you do is you have a buddy, and you both go to the run, or you both go to the bike run, and you introduce yourself, and you get to meet people. And as you meet those people and you connect with them because you get their email, you get them on Facebook, you do Instagram, all these things, usually what happens when something comes up, they say, hey, what about Jan over there? We met her. She seems to be a really good person. Let's go and meet her. Let's call her and see if she's interested in this type of job. So you have to get a network. So one good place for everyone to go to is Toastmasters. It's the best place in the world to go, and it's not expensive. But see, people think Toastmasters is about public speaking.
Does anyone know what a Toastmaster is? Have you heard of Toastmasters? Yeah.
The benefit of Toastmasters is this. Sure, it's about public speaking. Definitely it is. That's part of it. But what you need to understand, it's really about leadership. Because to succeed in Toastmasters, you have to pass on your experience to somebody else. And if you want to be a great leader, you need to be able to develop people. If you can't develop people, you're going to be a manager or a supervisor your whole life. There's a big difference, right? You got to learn, and if you want to go higher up in the food chain, it's not necessarily how smart you're technically. It's how you influence others and get buy-in from others. What's that? Communication. So the better you can communicate, more opportunities you're going to have. So another great place is, what's that? It's that, not Yuck Yucks. There's a comedy club. They have a tremendous program. And the good thing about it is they get involved in putting, my daughter was in one. Second City. They have a phenomenal program. And what it does, you go down there, you star in a play, you write in a play, and you direct in a play. But what I'm getting at is this. Until you can get out of your comfort zone, you're going to stay where you are. So what do you need to pray for? Courage. You need courage.
Okay, I want to open, this was my hope for today. I wanted to have Stuart here for people to actually ask some of the questions. And sorry, I was wrong, over 30 years. I said over 20, over 30
That's
years
okay. That doesn't
of
matter.
headhunting experience. So, I mean, he just gave us a little bit of a nugget of some of those leading career paths right now that we can look into. I want people to have an opportunity to ask some questions to Stuart about jobs, about careers, about some pathways to certain areas, but also just about his life. If you've got some questions about how he's kind of gotten to the place that he has, the ability to be able to kind of hit bottom and then slowly kind of transition up. So I want to kind of open the space up to people. If you don't feel comfortable, what we're going to do is we will end a little bit sooner, and Stuart's going to just stay here for a bit, and you can kind of talk to him a bit yourself. He's an open book, but he comes with a knowledge that we don't have access to on a daily basis. And so just with his lived experiences, but also with his professional experience. And these are the reasons that I prayerfully and ask the leadership of the church who we should have in these moments, who we should bring into these moments, is because of people's experiences, personal experiences or their career experiences. So don't let this opportunity go to waste. Because I know, I'm looking at the faces in this room, I know some of us are really struggling with next steps, with careers, with where we should be, with our talents, with the giftings that God's given us versus how to make money. So don't let Stuart's time go to waste, because this is an opportunity that we have that of someone who does this for a living. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Guys, any have any questions?
There's someone here.
Yes, Patricia.
Hi, Patricia.
So I've come back to Christ within like the last couple of months, and what really spoke out to me was part of your story where you said money and all the finances and all the materialistic things just weren't efficient enough for you in your life at the time. So I want to know if you're comfortable enough to share if there's like a specific moment that kind of hits you, because I know for me, to come back to the Lord, it was really just that, like, I was just like, Lord, I have nothing, and I'm gonna run back to you and try to give this a shot, but I am terrified.
Mhm.
So I was fearful, but here I am today. So are you comfortable enough?
Yeah, sure.
Was there a moment for you?
I mean, I tried Alcoholics Anonymous at first when I was 21, and I became what they call a Yetz. And what a Yetz is, you haven't lost everything yet. Right?
Ah.
That's what it was. I was a big shot. You know, I was working for a guy. At 21, I was making a couple $100,000 a year. I was driving a Cadillac for a while, and I had on made-to-measure suits with the monogram on it, the gold chain, the diamond ring, and all that crap. I was showing success. I got made-to-measure suits and those kind of things. I was actually living in the back of a limousine. But I was about $55,000 or $65,000 in debt, and I was living at home, and I thought I had my life together. Right? I was about 245 pounds, and one night, in the middle of a blackout, I decided to take the limousine to Atlantic City, and got across the border, and I woke up in the morning out of a blackout, and I was in a Phillips 66 gas station. And I said my first thought, I thought, what the hell have I done here? Right? But the thing that happened was just God in my life. I looked in the mirror and I seen myself, who I really was. It wasn't the judge that caught me. It wasn't the shenanigans and all that stuff. I caught myself. I seen who I really was. That unbelievably pit of doom and despair. And then within 30 seconds, the alcoholic thinking went out, and I called all my friends and said, hey, look at me. I'm in Atlantic City, and then I had to call the guy I worked for to send me some money. I gambled for a couple of days, and then I drank all the way home. My last drink was a case of Michelob, throwing them out of the car. I don't know how we didn't get picked up by the police.
Different
throwing
time.
them out of the roof of the car. But
Different time.
But here's what happened. I came home, and the guy I worked for at the time gave me a call, and he said, Stu, can you come in to work and try to show up, and I'm trying to get the office in shape and all that kind of stuff. Any other time I'd say, oh yeah, Brian, no problem. Out of my mouth came, Brian, I'm sorry, I can't make that promise. I have no idea where that came from. I do today now. That was God in my life. And through that gentleman, I ended up going to Renaissance Treatment Center in March 23rd, 1989. That night, they told me to go on my knees and just pray or do whatever you thought. At that time, I had no relationship with God or whatever. I got on my knees and I just said, God, whoever the heck you are, I just don't want to live like this anymore. I never want to drink again. I never had a desire to take a drink since. That doesn't mean I haven't thought about it, right? But that's what happened to me.
That's amazing.
Right. Well, but the thing is, in life is amazing for all of us. Now, here's what's interesting. My wife's a Christian, a lot better Christian than I am. Whatever a better Christian is, I don't know, right? But we all do the best we can, right? But my purpose in life, where God gave me the gift, if you're an alcoholic or drug addict, I can identify with you. If you're not, you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about.
Mm.
Not a clue. But here's the thing you need to understand about alcoholism or drug addiction or any type of addiction. It's a family disease. It affects everybody in the family. I have a business partner that's got a daughter that's addicted to Oxycontin. What a nightmare he's gone through. 5 years of unbelievable stuff, right? But the problem is he won't go and get help for himself, right? So everybody in this room, in one way or another, is affected by something. The important thing, again, is what I said earlier. You have to learn to take care of yourself and take responsibility for you. So I surrender to Christ every morning.
Yeah.
It's a day, you get a daily reprieve based on your spiritual condition. So every morning I get up and I do certain things I need to do. And then in my phone, I have all these little things in for prayers that come up during the day to remind me that I'm not in charge.
Right.
And that's what helps me. And then when I swim, I meditate. When I swim, I meditate pretty well every morning. And then I swim, I meditate, and I work out my prayers, and I work out. I was a marathon runner for a while, but now I can't. I got a knee replacement, a hip replacement, elbow replacement, because I was a cyclist too. I was a pretty big athlete when I was younger. And but now I'm too old to do that stuff, so I swim. That's what old
Swimming
people
is-
do.
yeah.
They swim.
I joined the seniors that swim. so
And
I'm
you
a
go.
fan.
And the other thing, I'm a great Latin dancer.
Okay.
I can
All right,
I can
Stu.
really do I can do some really Latin dancing.
All
That's for
right.
sure. I owe that to my wife.
Anyone else? Any other questions, thoughts? Again, and Stu will be up here, so if you have questions that are more personal, but your questions can probably help someone else in the room too. So
Can I just say something before we close?
yes.
Okay.
Oh, we're not closing just yet,
Oh,
but yes,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, like I know how I know how uncomfortable it can be to when you're in a room like this to
Yeah.
speak up, right? But first of all, we're all in the same boat here, right? We're all trying to do the same thing, help each other,
Mm.
right? And it takes one person to start the whole group by being open to share, right? And that's the great thing, how people get well. You know, the greatest gift you can give another friend is to be your true self. And how we do that is don't be scared to speak what's on your mind,
Yeah.
to be honest, right? So I'll give you my email. I'm sure you can get it from Stephanie, and you can contact me. I have a large coaching practice where I coach a lot of people, right? And anyone in this room today that contacts me, I'll do it for free to help you to get on the way that you need to do. But you're going to have to do a lot of work.
Mm.
You know, that's the thing, you know. And I'll give you a quick thing on that. My mother was the alcoholic in our house. And I remember one morning I go down in the kitchen. My mom's on the kitchen floor. It's just a mess. And I went to my father. I said, Dad, come on, you got to do something. And you know what he said to me? He said, God only helps them who can help themselves. That's the truth, eh? You know, you're in the strength and the ability, and you have the gifts to really move forward in your life if you choose to do that, right? And if you learn, the opposite of fear is faith. It just takes faith and a little bit of courage to make the call or to do the next right thing, and God will do his job. That's been my own experience.
Mm.
If I just do the next right thing, things will work out. We're into a whole wonderful world here, and there's tremendous amount of opportunity for you out there. So one thing, don't give up on yourself. You know, life is a marathon, eh? And life is hard.
Aw.
It's not easy, right?
I don't know why it's really hard.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll give you a good example of something that's interesting. I was working on a deal one time, and I had this guy who went out to dinner with his wife and the client, and the guy turns around and he comes to dessert, and the guy ate his pie, and he ate his pie from the good part first. So the client said to him, why would you do that? And he says, well, I don't want to eat the part I don't like until the end. You know, he didn't hire him because he felt his behavior was when things got tough, he was going to quit. What I'm trying to say to you, don't quit on yourself. You are responsible for your own life, your own actions, and your own way. You can get help along the way, but you have the power that's given by God to make choices and to get through these things. And the difference is, you want to build character, not your reputation. Too many people in this world about their reputation. Reputation means nothing. Character is what God knows of you. And everyone in this room has been given the same gifts that I've been given. Right? And by no means am I a perfect person. My wife can tell you that. In actual fact, I should have brought her here and she could tell you what I'm really like. That's the truth, right?
Yeah.
But when I don't leave here knowing that there's not hope out there, there's not an opportunity out there for you. There is a path for you.
Yeah.
You just got to stay a little longer, try a little harder, and you'll get there. You know, and there's many, many people. Like, look at this room. None of you are alone. You know, together. You know, I have a saying that none of us have it together, but together we can have it all. So if we all support each other in here, and we all try to help each other, we'll get there. So if you hear something that might not be good for you, but it'll be good for your friend, make sure you tell them. Right? Don't be scared to lose something. Right?
Right.
That's important, right? You know, so, but I appreciate the chance to talk to you, and I really hope that that you find that gift, because life is a wonderful journey, right?
Yeah.
It's a good ride, you know, and I hope to live to be 100. But the problem is I only got enough money to 90. So that's the way it works, right?
There you go. Any questions? Okay, yeah. We don't have much time to
That's
start, so
okay.
we'll just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She said it must have been hard for you to see your mom like that growing up.
Yeah.
How did you process that? And were you able to help her?
Well, my mother got sober, and she actually helped me in an indirect way.
Wow.
But I went to Al-Anon to deal with all the resentments I had against my mother.
Explain what Al-Anon is. I don't know
Al-Anon
if
is
people
a
know what
place.
that is.
It was started by Bill Wilson's wife for they have Alateen, Ala children, and Al-Anon's for people that are affected by an alcoholic or drug addict. And I went to Al-Anon because what I realized, I was hurt. And my problem in my family was I had 2 twin sisters, then I had a younger brother. My life was great until my younger brother came up. I'm a perfect example of the prodigal son. Perfect example. That I had all this resentment. I never got this, I never got that, but I got greater gifts than my brother did. My brother is a self-admitted alcoholic that got sober for 5 years. He's living on the streets in Toronto. You wouldn't believe he's 58, I think, and it's just so sad. I have another sister who's a twin sister. She's a self-admitted alcoholic, but she's what I call a dry alcoholic. She doesn't go to meetings or found God. She's trying to do it herself. She's a miserable, very difficult to deal with person. But my mother went to AA, and unfortunately, my mother died at 66. She got MS and got very sick, and my father had to look after, and he died at 91. So I hope I got his genes. But but to answer your question, I prayed for my mother a lot. But the real thing that happened to me, which I'm sure a lot of you can probably identify, I took on this thing called borrowed shame. I took on all the stuff that my parents never did in their life. They put it onto me, and I took it on. And what I had to learn, I read a book. I read a book called Letting Go of Shame. It took me a year to read it. But one day, I had Bernese Mountain Dogs. I lived on the beach. I was walking down. There's a big rock there. And after doing all the work, I went to therapy. I worked the steps. I talked to my sponsor. I put my hand on the rock, and I just prayed to her. And I said, God, I know my mom's up in heaven. I pray that you continue to surround her with your love. Let her know that I love her. And I said, Mom, you can't shame me no more. I forgive you. And from that day forward, I loved my mother. So that's how I dealt with it. You know, healing, and that's the other thing is that NA, CA, AA, it's not about fixing things. And that's the other thing to learn. Life is not about fixing things. We spend so much time thinking, if I get this car, I'm going to feel better. If I get this new job, I'm going to feel better. If I make more money, I'm going to feel better. If I get a better boyfriend, I'm going to feel better. If I get a more beautiful girlfriend, I'm going to feel better. If the Leafs ever win the Stanley Cup, I will feel better. But the truth is this. Life is about healing. And we need to learn how to heal. That's why we need Christ.
That's good.
And that's really what it's all about. And the same thing where you are now. You know, the day will come that you think your life might not be, oh boy, it's so tough without a job and all. Then you might get a job and you'll say, oh my God, I wish I never got this job, right? You're going to have this in your life. And the other thing I've learned, life never stays the same. It's up and down. And what you want to do is try to get it like this. Sometimes I'm way up here, then sometimes I'm way down here. I try to live this way. That's hard. That's a hard thing to do sometimes, but I try to focus on that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
I think if you want to find out more about Al-Anon, I'm more than happy to help you and guide you to there, and more than happy to talk to you and share my own experience with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
You-
Okay. Well, I'm gonna pray us out, and I'm hoping that a lot of you are gonna come and talk to Stuart. Stuart, like you said, very generous of you to allow me to share your email. So
no problem.
I will do that, and people here. Oh, sorry, I've got one more question. Yes, Ainley.
I have a really general question.
Yeah.
But how do you discern when should you move or transition into another job, another opportunity?
Mm.
Just because I think, like looking at like the older generation or like my parents, for example, they stayed in their career for like their entire life. But I know it's a lot different nowadays where
Right.
people can like change 180 in their career. And just talking about like in the scenario if people maybe feel comfortable in their career.
Mhm.
What are some things that you should look for switching careers?
Mm.
Well, that's a very good question because we're in a kind of strange market right now. Clients now today, we're in a bidding war. Now, a lot of the jobs I work on, I get a lot of bidding wars. Like some candidates get 5 offers in a week. It's insanity, right? But the main thing is, you know, I've talked in front of hundreds of people in AA. I don't know why I don't feel I'm on tonight, but I'm trying my best. But the way I look at it is this: if you don't have a plan where you want to end up, how do you know what move to make? Right? And you know, the big word today, people move because of toxic environments, and it's true. You know, if you're in a relationship with an employer that is a real dork, you know, don't stick around. You got to make the move, but don't leave a job until you have another job, unless it's so unbearable that you can't. Because it's a lot easier finding a new opportunity when you have one. But the thing is, like, say for example, I deal with a finance guy, and he wants to be a VP of finance, so he's got a 15-year plan. So my question to him, well, what skills and experiences do you feel you need in order to become a VP? And first sign that he's probably not going to get there if he doesn't know that.
Mm.
He hasn't taken the time. He's looking for me to do the answers. Or they might say, oh, I want to work for a company that promotes me. Well, what do you think you need to do to get promoted? See, you're responsible for that. You're your own business. You need to identify what skills and what experiences you need in order to achieve your long-term goal. And if you do that, then you look at the opportunities you're looking at. Where can I get that experience, right? And then you move to certain industries to get that. And we are moving into a market now that clients are working very hard to create loyalty again. They're giving better benefits, and that's because we're in a demographic war. I was out with a customer this morning. He's got almost $1 billion company, and he's looking for like 35, 40 people. And he says, Stu, it's so hard to find good people. That's very true.
Mm.
That's a very true statement. And you might think that's hard when you are applying for these jobs, right? You know, but you know what? McDonald's is a good job. But people say, I don't want to work at retail because I don't want to work in the front line. It's like, it's beneath me or whatever. But you know what it gives you? It gives you the ability to deal with conflict. Because I coach a lot of younger people, and you know the biggest problem they have? Dealing with conflict. They think it's a bad thing. It's not. When people are asking questions and creating conflict, it's a good thing. Things are coming out. It's an opportunity how to diffuse it and how to deal with it. It's a great skill to have. You know what they say? You know, it amazes me. I was at a barbecue with one of my nieces, and the guy beside me, he worked for a company, and I said, so is everyone working out? We go, yeah. And I said, so you guys have meetings? He says, oh, no. If I got a problem, I just text the guy. I looked at him, I mean, his office is right beside you. You don't get up and talk to him? You know, there's a great book out there called The Anxious Child. Talks about what happened since 1987, how technology has affected a lot of the younger generation. That's created a lot of anxiousness within them, right? This can overcome by doing opportunities and taking jobs that put you in a situation where you have to deal with it. And the more you deal with it, the stronger you get. So I always look at, and I'll give you another example. I had a young gentleman come to me through a customer, and he had two offers. One was with a company, a regular type of job. Another one was with a headhunting company, a very big one. And I just asked him a simple question. I said, what job are you scared the most of? And he said, the headhunting job. And I said, why? He said, because I said, what do you think? I said, that's the job you should take. And he said, why would I do that? I said, because you're going to learn more about yourself in that job than your other job. Right? That's what's important. That's what's really important. You need a plan, have an idea where you want to go. That doesn't mean that, everyone asks this question, right? They say, where do you want to be in 5 years? Oh my God, it's such a stupid question. I mean, sometimes I don't know where I'm going to be next week, right? But you need to have some understanding of what you need to develop and where you're trying to head. And then you work towards that. It could be, a skill you need to acquire. Like, for example, if you want to get your CPA in tax, you'll never get it now if you don't work for a public company where you do public tax, because that's the requirement to get it. So you need to do that. And here's the other challenge you have. I deal with a lot of people that are coming into the country that come from China, they come from India, all different places. And they're well educated, but they never take the time to get their education equivalency before they come here. And they never learn the skills that they need to learn before they come here, right? So then they come here and they wonder why they can't get this great job that they had back at home. Well, it's because they can't compete with the people that are already at that level, right? So what does that tell you? You need to investigate, you need to prepare. You're your own marketing team. You're your own business. Look at what you need to do to get what you need to go to. Have your own plan and stick to your goal, and you'll get there. And I think in my lifetime, in my career, I've maybe met 15 what I would call unbelievably successful people. And one of them, two of them are very good friends. And this is what they told me. I went out with this one guy, his name's Roman Coker. He owns a very successful business. And I said, Roman, what did you do to become so successful? And he just looked at me with a big smile on his face. He said, Stu, very simple. I said, so what was it? He said, I just believed it. And I'll tell you one last story, because I know our time's running. There's this other guy named Nash Laka, and I'll tell you his name because you can look him up. I met Nash when he immigrated from the UK. And that was, about 40 years ago, I guess now. And I ended up placing him at a company called Silverwood Dairies. Actually, I had him out to 2 interviews. One was Silverwood Dairies, which is now Alt Foods, which is now Parmalat, Canada. And I had him out to Levi Strauss. And Levi Strauss said, we love him. He thinks he's a great guy, but we don't think he has any long-term potential. He just retired as chairman of an $8 billion company. But he had no potential.
Too bad.
So my point is, no one can tell you what you can't do. The only person can is yourself. Everybody in here has the power to be who you want to be and what you want to be. You just got to want it. It's like being sober. It's not for all those who need it. It's for those who want it. Yeah. I've never, ever put anything in front of my sobriety. This is a very important lesson to learn in life. And one day at a time, you chip away at it, get yourself a good coach and a good mentor, and you'll get there. The fact that you know what to ask tells me you're already halfway there. You're on the right path. That's a good question to ask.
Amazing. Well, there you go.
There we go.
Yeah, that was a good way to end.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Stuart, thank you so much.
Well,
I feel like
you.
we were just downloaded with a fire hose of just encouragement and information, which has been so helpful. And I think my heart around this series was to have real, honest conversations about what it looks like to actually do this stuff. Not just, surface level, if you just kind of do this, but really trying to get into it. And so you're in the weeds of it. You work with young people all the time. You also work with employers who are looking for good people, like you said. Yep. And so trying to figure out how to be those good people and how to be those good employees to get to places where we want to get to. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm going to pray, and then you're cool to stick around for a little
Yeah,
bit?
sure, sure,
I'm
sure.
sure people are going to flock towards you.
Oh,
so.
yeah, right.
All right. So let's pray really quick. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for tonight, Lord. We thank you for Stuart, God. We thank you for his life, for his journey, for your power in his life, God, for your power in his family's life. Father, thank you for bringing Stuart here with us today, Lord. But God, so much more of Stuart is his story, God. And we're just thankful that he was open and honest with us about the story, because it's so important for us as young people in the church to see real life stories played out, Father, and how people like Stuart exist in our church and are shamelessly point to you. Shamelessly say, not my will, but yours, Lord. So we just thank you for that, Father. And we just pray, Lord, that today we are walking away with some piece of information, some nugget that is going to help us take that next step, Lord. It's going to help us find joy and not just happiness, Father, and find it in you, Lord. So we thank you and we pray all these things in your beautiful name. Amen.
Amen.